In the know, non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Come on! Football!
Welcome in to another edition of Judd's Camp Notes here. Judd having taken in all of night practice last night, having thrown fastballs at the ownership of the Minnesota Vikings at a press conference.
Arm hurts. Those fastballs.
Yeah.
Might need Tommy John.
Yeah, sore shoulder, sore elbow from throwing those fastballs. So we'll dive into that here momentarily through Judd's Camp Notes. But the show is presented by our friends over at TCL, which has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, and home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. You can learn more at TCL.com. And now we turn it over to Judd. You've been out there for virtually every meaningful practice the last 2 weeks since training camp began. We had another night practice last night. The owners spoke, or was it just Mark, or did Ziggy run out there for a little bit?
No, Mark is now, Mark for like the last, it's actually a lot of years now, probably 8 years, has been the spokesman. Yep. So yeah, back in my day when I was on the beat for the Star Tribune, as if I may say so myself, the lead beat writer for the Star Tribune on the Vikings
lead.
So I was like, move aside.
All
It's
due respect
me.
to the others. You were the lead.
Oh yeah. I love Chip dearly. You know that. But anyway, back in those days, Ziggy would sort of give a state of the team, state of things address. Now that has transferred to Mark, who is at the microphone a better public speaker, so it does make sense. Yeah. And this started off with, Mark talking about the fact that the team is going to take measures to honor the late Bud Grant. They're going to wear a patch on their throwback jersey opening day. They're going to wear some type of insignia on their helmet throughout the course of the season. But this also gave us a chance to ask about the team, about the aspirations, about where things are at. As far as the practice goes, we'll get to that. It was not a padded practice. It was a stadium practice, and I'm not quite sure exactly why. It was basically a pseudo walkthrough with a little bit of football mixed in, but they're going to play in 2 days, so it's not surprising. But probably the most important thing Mark was asked about, and just a couple of questions, but still important, is Kirk Cousins' contract situation, going the last year of his contract. And then also subsequently Justin Jefferson's contract. Now, he obviously has 2 years left on his rookie contract, but we've been talking about this a ton, and it's very important, which is he's eligible for an extension, which has not gotten done yet. But I want to start with the sort of just juxtaposition of these two comments that Mark Wilf made on these players. And Dex, if we can fire the Kirk Cousins comment when asked about that contract situation.
Well, we feel great about the quarterback situation. Kirk's an outstanding leader. He's led this team incredibly these past few years, and we're looking for great things for him in 2023. And I know there's discussions all the time on all these topics, especially quarterback. And I know Kwesi and Coach are always communicating with Kirk and everybody, but we're real happy to have him lead our team. Well, again, we'll leave that to Kwesi and Coach to work through those discussions. There's always conversations on that, but our real focus is 100% on 2023 and getting where we need to be and where I know we can be.
Now, none of those comments are surprising. It's not like, oh my God, I can't believe that the owner of the Vikings said those things. But I'm not sure about you guys, but I found it to be very interesting because to me that comment stayed on the same page because there was never we'd love to keep him though, right? Or we'd like to keep him. So because he didn't say that, I think that this really dovetails into what the organization is thinking, which is there is like no other clear-cut plan right now. And there is no would I be shocked if Kirk stayed here? No, I would not. But do I think that this franchise is, what's the term, champing at the bit to keep Kirk? Like, we got to get, privately, we got to get him locked up.
Yeah.
No, I don't. So I found this to be pretty much confirmation from the very top of the Vikings that the decision on a quarterback is very fluid and that Kirk Cousins is in no way, shape, or form guaranteed of coming back here after this season.
And some of it's, he's getting, you're not when you're 34, 35 years old, you're not going to get a 4-5 year contract anymore. Tom Brady was, once he hit like age 35, was doing 2-year contracts, right? The greatest quarterback of all time. The Saints actually did this with Drew Brees. I don't know exactly how old he was, but Drew Brees, you know what it was? It was the same offseason 5.5 years ago where Kirk Cousins was a free agent and signed with the Vikings. Drew Brees was actually the highest profile and best quarterback on the market very briefly, and then he signed back with the Saints, like before the league year started. So, and what was Drew Brees at that time? Probably 35, and had a couple little injury issues, but they said, you know what, man, you are a Hall of Famer, and we appreciate the Super Bowl that you put in our trophy case, but even with you, Drew Brees, let's just kind of see where we're at the end of the 2017 season, whatever that was, and then we can take it from there. So I feel like, a lot of people are like on behalf of Kirk acting like he's being disrespected or slighted in some way. This is what happens oftentimes. And maybe him and his camp wanted a longer deal, a 3, 4, 5-year deal. And Kwesi and, the Vikings front office said, we're not, how many 35-year-old quarterbacks get locked in for 3 guaranteed seasons? So, I don't think it's disrespectful. I think it's just sort of what happens once you get to be this age as a quarterback. And we've seen it with some of the all-time greats of this generation before.
And I think, too, that it's probably smart, but if you follow the Vikings, and I don't mean to say that Kirk is the answer, and I don't mean to say that Kirk is a negative, because I don't believe either one of those things. But I think as a Vikings follower, it's either exciting or a little bit scary because of the fact that the Wilfs are now, believe it or not, going into their 19th season as owners of this team. We're nearly at 20 years. And in that time, they have not had in my opinion, quote unquote, franchise quarterback. I mean, Brett Favre was great for a year. It was great fun, but that was a dalliance. That was a risque Green Bay Packer showing up on our doorstep and us saying, come on in, right?
Yeah,
but you think about it. Rick Spielman has basically acknowledged he largely got fired because he never found that guy. Teddy could have been, but we don't know. And that ended very unfortunately. But the point is, this again is one of the most intriguing things to me. If you are a Vikings fan, this is one of the most intriguing things really in the course of this franchise's history and has been before, which is, can this new regime find the guy? And can the guy be developed? A lot of questions there, because you're probably not going to be bad enough to draft high enough unless you can trade up, which would be very difficult. But this is where it's a really interesting time as far as the franchise goes to ask the question, can they finally solve a riddle that they really haven't solved since Tarkington?
I don't know that everyone in the building and certainly fans views it as a riddle to be solved. I think a lot of people view it as that Kirk solved the riddle, especially now that he's been here for multiple contracts. 6th year in the NFL. Look at, I think it was the NFL, it might have been part of the top 100 list that came out, but players voted on the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And collectively, they had Kirk Cousins 6th or 7th, the players in the NFL. We saw that ESPN.com article, it was Mike Sando's annual athletic quarterback tiers, where he surveyed 50 people in the league, executives, coaches, offensive coordinators, all these analytics people, right? And they had Kirk as the 11th or 12th best quarterback in the league. So, I agree with you. I think at some point I want a 22-year-old guy that can be the guy for who's the Justin Herbert, who's the Joe Burrow. It would be nice at some point to get that. But they have had a guy here for 6 years that's been one of the 10 to 15 best in the world. Players say he's 6th best in the world right now. So it's weird because you're right, but you could also make a case that it's more solved here than it is for half the teams or more in the NFL. And it's more solved here than it's been since Fran Tarkenton or I don't know, probably Fran Tarkenton in terms of longevity for a really good starting quarterback.
I love that point, but I guess what's very, very clear is internally they don't agree. Because if they agree,
they don't agree with what I said, or they don't, or do you think there's people in the building that disagree?
No, I think they don't. I think they don't agree with your point because yes, as far as the past 6 years have not train wrecked, some of them have not been great, but I don't think that they agree with your point, or Kirk would have gotten at the tender age of going on 35, he would have gotten an extension. He'd be extended right now. So like what they are, I will go back to this, and I think this is one of the things that Kwesi and probably especially Kevin O'Connell told the Wilfs when they were hired for the job, which is, we can do this. We can find your 10-year guy, and to your point, Phil, who comes in at the age of 22, we can stop the cycle of, because the thing with Kirk is, Kirk was sort of the Hail Mary pass himself of Rick Spielman saying, I can't find a guy, I'm just going to break the bank. Mm-hmm. And the Vikings, I think, with O'Connell are saying, hold on a second here. We know what we're looking at. This is going to be different. So I get your point totally. And yes, Kirk, this is not meant to say that Kirk has not, or that Kirk has been a train wreck. He has not been. It is to say, I think if there was written down or if there's a secret Viking computer that you could hack into and see the Kwesi O'Connell mission, like let's say there's 5 things on the mission. And number 1 is obviously a Super Bowl championship. Right up there would also be quarterback conundrum solved with 10-year starter, who we drafted probably, and who we keep under cap control for 5 years. Yeah. That's where I find this to be a really intriguing conversation.
And I also think it took a little bit, and one more thought on this, and we can move on to other notes here. But I think the first few years of Kirk, he wasn't as good as he is now. He was a little hard to sort of get to know because he seemed like such a corporate quarterback. And now you fast forward, and we've seen him get the coach that he needs, and we've seen him with the fourth quarter comebacks. We've seen him on the Netflix docu-series. We've seen him in the community, and he's just connected more in the last 2 or 3 years. I feel like, it's hard as an outsider for Minnesotans to embrace you fully, right? We love our homegrown people, homegrown drafted stars, but I feel like his approval rating is so much higher now than it's ever been. It's going to be really fascinating to see how this ends and when it ends, right? Because there's still another level. If he plays even better this year and they go deep in the playoffs or whatever, then he's coming back for at least 2 or 3 more years, almost certainly contractually, right? It's kind of up to him. If he plays his ass off this year, they're not just going to, I don't think they're just, now he's a free agent, so he can in theory go sign somewhere else. But I don't think he wants to, dude. I think he loves it here. I think his family loves it here.
I wonder if the Vikings would pay him, though. Like, he would definitely, at that point in time, take himself to market just to see, right? Unless the Vikings knocked his socks off.
Drew Brees didn't.
Interesting. I know Kirk has said he wants to finish his career here. I don't know that he clearly was spurned, right? Like at some point in the spring, they said, we want this. And the Vikings are like, whoa, can't. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I see I don't know if I actually see Kirk Cousins as connected to this franchise, although I don't think there's a problem, but I don't know if he's as connected to this franchise as Brees had become to the Saints. It's an interesting question, though. Mm-hmm. So note 2 off of that is the other significant contract that is in play here is obviously Justin Jefferson, who, as I said before, he's got 2 years left on his rookie contract. But here's where it gets to be intriguing. Have you been watching what's happened with the holdout of Bosa in San Francisco? He was drafted a year before Jefferson.
Yep.
He is now going into his 5th year, which of course the Niners long ago picked up that option. But he's saying, I ain't playing on the final year of my rookie contract until I get an extension. So, and here's the interesting part that flies in the face of what we talked about so much with the potential Danielle Hunter holdout. In this case, Bosa, because he's on his rookie contract, is fined $50,000 a day, but it can be forgiven. So if you're on your rookie contract, you can sit out and be like, hey, I'm going to sit out.
Interesting. Okay.
And then we do
forgive those. Okay.
And then at the end of the day, they can say, well, because you're on your rookie contract, remember that $550,000 that you lost? Here you go. It's back. So so there is immediacy. There is urgency to get this Jefferson thing done. And I asked Mark Wilf a 2-pronged question. I said, first of all, how important is it to make sure that Justin Jefferson is a Viking long-term? because he obviously has become the face of the franchise. And second of all, because of the complex nature of this contract, how involved is ownership in this? Because this is, I believe my direct question was, you probably don't get involved in contracts a lot, but in this case, it's going to be a break the bank massive one. And here's his response, which I found to be interesting as I said before, the juxtaposition to what he said about Kirk, which was very non-committal. He said, certainly Kwesi and Rob Brzezinski and coach, everyone's working together on the contract, but we're certainly aware of it with the magnitude of this one, meaning contract. And in general, we're certainly aware, certainly involved, and Justin Jefferson, we want him to stay as a Minnesota Viking. So what's interesting about that to me is there's way more of a commitment there, which makes perfect sense. But, keep in mind, I think that revolves around at some point in time, and Jefferson might be waiting on this. So Nick Bosa reportedly wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League when he signs his contract, which he has yet to do. There's a very good case to be made that Justin Jefferson has every right to say, hold on a second, Nick Bosa's great, but I'm better. I want more.
So they're staring at each other here.
So it might be a stalemate. It might be a stalemate. So long story short, this is, like it or not, this is going to be a contract that is going to look like a quarterback contract, which gets us back to sort of the Cousins thing and the fluidity of that one.
Yeah.
Which would be the question of, if Kirk balls out, because you're going to sign Justin clearly, right? If Kirk balls out, can you afford what Kirk will probably ask for on the market when you're paying Jefferson like a quarterback? Therein lies a very interesting potential soap opera.
Yeah, the whole who's going to blink first, because the minute one of those guys signs a contract, the next one's going to be for $5 more in like guaranteed money or whatever. So this is what's stupid. It's 100% ego and vanity at that point for the agent to say that I got my guy the highest paid non-quarterback slot, even if it was for 5 minutes, and then the next guy took over. It's all monopoly money at that point. So I would hope, it's a fun theory, I would hope that those guys aren't like dragging this out so that they can get a nickel more than the other guy. But yeah, like, of course the Vikings are going to be more committed to the what is Jefferson now, 24-year-old who's the best player at his position than the 34-year-old who's like maybe the ninth best guy at his position.
I guess my point though is it makes a little bit of sense of why they're more non-committal to Kirk, because when I think what they have to do is get Jefferson done, take a deep breath, and say, okay, where do we go from here? Just from a salary cap standpoint.
Yes, because you've got all sorts of other decisions. We talked about, like, you got 2 edge rushers coming off the books. We got to figure that out. Speaking of Justin Jefferson, by the way, we have a fun new corner of scorenorth.com/shop that we unveiled yesterday. I saw a couple people, we got an email yesterday that like 2 or 3 people within the first hour of us mentioning this yesterday swooped up one of the Justin Jefferson spotlight catch signed framed photos. So if you go to scorenorth.com/shop, you'll see 2 different sections. The merchandise where you can get your Before I Die, Victory Monday, all sorts of hooded sweatshirts and t-shirts, all that fun stuff. And then you'll see collectibles. And boy, oh boy, this week we've got, like I said, the Justin Jefferson one-handed catch framed signed. There's several available. So, it's not like a bid for one. If multiple people, you want to get multiple for a family member, whatever. A Bud Grant signed and professionally framed photo. Judd's favorite movie is Slapshot. The cast of Slapshot signed a Slapshot hockey jersey.
I just saw that. That was awesome.
Amazing. So
yes,
scorenorth.com/shop. Click on the collectibles. You can use the promo code SCORE to save 10% on all products site-wide. So we're very excited about this. Let us know what you think, and you can help us grow Score North and Purple Daily if those items interest you. Let's also shout out our friends at Livia, helping people across the Purple Daily community lose a lot of weight the last couple of years.
Yep, absolutely. That includes Sports Dad right there on the left. Same guy on the right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a couple of years ago. I dropped 40 pounds thanks to a program that I'm going to tell you right now. It works, and it helps you not only drop the weight, but it helps you keep the weight off. And right now, if you join, you get 3 months for free. That's right, 3 months for free. You call now, you're going to lose up to 10 pounds or more in the first couple of weeks, and you're on a 3-month free plan to see what this program does, to see how well it works, to see what their dietitians and nutritionists can do and do on a daily basis for people all over who are trying to drop weight. They've been voted Minnesota's best weight loss program several times now, and it's this simple: 855-GO-LIVEA, livea.com, livea.com. As Phil said, a ton of people who watch this show, who consume this show, have joined and had great success. And the last thing that's important to keep in mind is, even though they're based in the Twin Cities, if you are a PD fan outside the state, guess what? The whole thing can be done virtually. They've got some food, some snacks and stuff, but it's not a ton of stuff that they send you. You can zoom in for the sessions. It absolutely can be done from anywhere in the country. Livea, livea.com.
And while we're getting healthy here, so about 6 years ago, I discovered AG1 products, and they've added a lot of value to my life over the years. Now I get to tell you about the experience I have had. So AG1 is like nutritional insurance to start your day. 1 scoop mixed with a bottle of water, and you've got your full allotment of nutrients for the rest of the day. It takes the place of my multivitamin, even takes the place of a probiotic. 75 high-quality ingredients that give me important daily nutrients. And it can be the first thing you drink in the morning. You just mix it with some water. You'll scoop a little water, or maybe it's more of a middle-of-the-day boost for you. So if you are looking for a comprehensive solution for your supplement routine, AG1 is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/purple daily, drinkag1.com/purple daily. Back to the camp notes.
All right. So as we all know, Sports Dad is also Sports Detective. And I would not be doing my sports detective job. Please sound the alarm.
Well, actually,
Inspector Zolgad.
Oh, I like it even more.
I'll give you
I
the
like it
long
even
order.
more.
Yeah.
Yep. I would not be doing my job as the sports detective if I did not bring up that once again last night in what was a practice in shorts. They did do some like team drills, but no contact, no nothing. No real risks involved. They were preparing for the game in a couple of nights. TJ Hockenson again took part in the individual stuff and then went in the locker room during the team stuff. This is now, so supposedly he's battling an illness of some sort. Okay. But he is a very large adult man that plays professional football. And I guess my question is this an illness or is it sickness of not having a contract extension?
Wow.
I think it would be unfair, and O'Connell has said an illness, but I'm sorry, this is the National Football League. It's the big boy league. And I feel as if we have to at least keep an eye on this very closely and talk about it, because it's not a coincidence that every time it feels like they start team drills where there could be, if you run a wrong route and your knee goes or something, right?
Yeah.
I buy he's been sick. I'm fine with that, but I don't buy that the sickness has forced him to miss team drills consistently for now. What do we go back to? Last Thursday or so? Yes, last Thursday. So sports detective, let's just say he'd like to call some people in for questioning. I'd like to get them in the box and talk to them about exactly what's going on here.
If you just to take a sort of a different viewpoint on this for a second, it would be really hard being an NFL general manager. You go through your draft, and that's hard enough, right? Figuring out how to find players that aren't going to be busts, find a franchise quarterback. Like the draft itself is a really hard thing to nail and oversee, and all the trading and all the different stuff.
Yeah.
But then you've got all these players all the time coming up on big contract decisions. Right now, if you're Kwesi, you're trying to figure out, okay, how much do we pay Jefferson? How much do we need to save cap-wise to make sure we have room for Darisaw? Do we give Hockenson money for what we think he could be? Or do we play hardball saying, well, you're not really there yet? How much do you sharpen the pencil on that front? Kirk Cousins, what a loaded plate that guy has right now, trying to navigate this over the next month until the regular season.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he's got help because Brzezinski's his cap guy and he's great at what he does. But that's the point of like the whole Jefferson, Kirk, Darisaw. That's exactly right. Like you basically have to do the math in your head of what you can afford. And I'm just saying the Hockenson thing now, DEFCONs go from 5 is good to 1 is bad, or vice versa.
Correct.
I can't remember.
One DEFCON
1 is bad.
1 is bad.
Worst.
Okay.
That is
1 is
nuclear
more pain.
war.
So last Saturday, I'd say this was like a DEFCON 5, right? It's like, okay, he's probably sick, blah, blah. I got to put her at a 3 right now, 2 or 3.
But don't you think? I mean, who knows what's happening behind the scenes right now? But don't you think that there's probably a discussion happening?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They haven't just like forgotten about him, and he's like, I guess I don't feel good.
I misspoke. I'm at a 3 or 4, so I'm not going with a 2. I'm going with a. But
3's
it's just
pretty high, dude. I mean, that's
three,
like
three would mean the Air Force is ready to mobilize in 15 minutes.
Then I'll stop at 4.
Like they're on the call.
Then I'll stop at 4.
Okay,
all I'm saying is I've moved it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll stop at 4. You can put the red phone down. The red line can be put down. But this is definitely crossed the line of, oh yeah, I'm sure it's fine. It's too coincidental that his contract is. And you know what? I don't blame him. Like he's coming off a big year. He was what in his draft by the Lions? The 8th pick or something? The 9th pick?
He was a top 10 pick.
So,
sure,
yes. I don't blame him. I think it gets done. I'm just saying it's now worth monitoring beyond a shoulder shrug of, oh yeah, I'm sure it's absolutely fine.
Okay. All right. I love how like I was thinking last night would be, this is a night practice, and they wind up like doing nothing at practice, and it winds up just being all these contractual situations that lead the camp notes. Mm-hmm. Rightfully so, by the way.
Mm-hmm. All right, on the field, let's transition to some special teams because I think there's some questions on special teams. Oh. First of all, we were told by special teams coordinator Matt Daniels that there most definitely is a kicker competition. And I believe I have said this before, but I will say it again. A year ago, I would have rolled my eyes. I would have been like, this is Greg Joseph's job. Just no, there's no competition. Mm-hmm. But Ryan Wright was brought in as competition at punter last year. He wore number 66, and we all sort of scoffed and said, the pudgy punter ain't going to win this. And he did. So with that in mind, until they make a move here, I'm not going to assume that they aren't waging a kicking competition because quite frankly, and I actually applaud this a lot, Greg Joseph deserves competition. He's done nothing not to have competition. Mm-hmm. This isn't we signed Ryan Longwell to a big contract. We're not going to bring in an extra kicker, right? It makes no sense. He's our guy. This is a guy who, yes, made some, as Dex likes to talk about, some crucial kicks, but he also missed too many crucial kicks. And so, bravo Vikings. Yes, wage a competition here. And if Joseph wins it, that's fine. But the fact is, until we see a move made here, I'm going to assume that this is a legit competition. It's going to take another step, and I think Joseph will kick at least at first on Thursday night, but it's going to take a step on Thursday night. So don't assume that Podlesny has no chance, because I think he does have a chance.
Don't you think that the preseason games, if you're ranking like which players and positions do preseason games matter most for, I would say the kickers are high on that list. You get all these camp kicks and you've been tracking them, but if you go out there and you duck hook 3 field goals from inside 50 yards,
no question,
you're probably getting cut. Mm-hmm. So,
and it sounded like Daniel said that Joseph is going to get the brunt of the work in the Thursday game, so he'll probably get the first opportunities for field goal attempts and kickoffs too, I'm guessing, and then they'll bring in Podlesny in the second half or in other situations. So, yeah, I think it's clearly it's still Greg Joseph's too loose. Like if you were a betting person, he's the favorite right now, but he could obviously still lose this job.
Yeah, because I thought Ryan Wright a year ago was just a camp leg punter. Like, oh, we'll bring in this dude. And when he won the job, I said, this team is taking special teams very seriously. And I like that. They should.
Weren't you also concerned about his holding ability? Didn't you say that was going to be a big problem?
Yes, I was very concerned because until
was
somebody
Greg Joseph's problems actually Ryan Wright's fault
that they can hold. You know what? That we never got that though. I think we asked about it, but we didn't get that. But that's a very good question. And now with a year under his belt, I'm far more confident in Wright. I just think that the kicking, I don't think Greg Joseph, while I agree with you, odds-on favorite, I don't think that there's promise that you are our guy. And there shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. All right?
All right. What, we got a couple more minutes left here.
Yep.
Judd's camp notes. What else you got for us?
Punt return. We have an update on the punt return. Matt Daniels saying that while Jordan Addison, as we've talked about, has returned punts during practice, he is a backup candidate there. I think the long story short is he's going to play too much on offense. He's clearly going to play a lot, which is great. But you don't take a guy that's going to play a lot on offense ordinarily and put him on returns, especially punt returns. So what we saw last night was this. Brandon Powell, who, as we discussed on our breakdown of the 53 that I did yesterday on Purple Daily, Brandon Powell, who I think is going to make the team and I think ultimately will return punts. Jalen Reagor, who did it last year, I now think he's probably going to be cut unless Jalen Naylor's still not back. So this has gotten sort of weird because he took part in the first practice. So Reagor could make the team at first by default, but I think Powell is your punt return guy. A wide receiver by the name of Thayer Thomas, who's not going to make the team. And then a guy who made two very nice catches along the sideline against Andrew Booth last night, passes from Nick Mullins. The last guy who got a chance on punt returns, N'Keal Harry, who was just signed. And by the way, gentlemen, looks far more like a tight end than he does a wide receiver.
He's huge. He's like
enormous.
I'm trying to think of other, remember David Boston? Wasn't he one of those guys back in the day?
You know who?
He's 6'4".
The first guy I thought of, and I didn't look up his height and weight, so just an eye test thing. Mike Williams of the Chargers.
Yeah.
Seems big to me. So, but N'Keal Harry, I've got I was trying to find it. N'Keal he is 245. I mean, he is a big man.
Yep. So former first round pick, Kwesi loves these stocks, these former first, second round picks. But it might be something that Kwesi loves to throw those chips on the table, and then the coaching staff decides, actually, Jalen Reagor probably shouldn't have been a top 20 overall pick in the NFL draft.
Yes, absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. I'm just seeing if I can find it. Oh, 6'4", 225 on N'Keal Harry.
Yep. David Boston was listed at 6'3", 240 pounds.
Oh my God.
20 years
Patriots,
ago.
right? With the Patriots?
Is he Patriots? Let's see here.
David, I think he attended
Cardinals. He went to Ohio State.
Yeah, because I remember watching him at Ohio State.
He was the 8th overall pick. Guy. Yeah, by the Cardinals.
Okay.
He played, and then he went to the Chargers, and then the Dolphins. But now David Boston actually had, I thought he was kind of a bust, but no, he actually led the league in receiving yards in 2001 with 1,598 receiving yards.
Big men can catch the ball too.
Big, box you out. Interesting. Okay.
All right. And the last note, kickoff returns. So I don't know when he's coming back. Kene Nwangwu remains out. In fact, during the walkthrough before the press conferences yesterday, we saw him on a side field doing some work. So I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how long he's out, but he's been out for a fairly extended time now. So last night in the stadium, working on kickoff returns again, Brandon Powell and Dwayne McBride, which was a surprise to me because, as Phil and I talked about, the Dwayne McBride thing is he fumbles a little bit too much, which is sort of tempting fate if you bring the ball out. But I do think that it's worth keeping an eye on. I think Nwangwu makes the team, and I think he returns kicks from the people I've talked to. That being said, I wonder if it's going to get to be a roster discussion of Brandon Powell can do two jobs. And he's going to play receiver, but he's not going to play a ton. So he fits perfectly there. But this league is working so hard to de-emphasize kicks. I think it's going to be a discussion among teams. Like Kene can return kicks. He's really good. But are teams going to, take the fair catch at the 5 now? Are they going to take the? So I think there's a lot of questions from a special teams coordinator and head coach place here of what's our strategy? Because if our strategy is don't chance it, then your kick returner is devalued even more now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I just want to say, wow, Judd Zulgad, 2 weeks of training camp, grinding. You've avoided sunburn. You've avoided any sort of heat episodes. You're staying hydrated. You're probably providing the best, most in-depth and accurate notes. But we've heard some people have hit us up saying, well, I was listening to some other show or another radio station or whatever it is, and they were saying things that just weren't correct. We only trust Judd's camp notes from now going forward. That's what people are saying.
I'm emotional. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I can't believe there'd be false Vikings narratives out there. False Vikings prophets? Never.
No. Real quick, a shout out to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. So Federated's been around for over 100 years. 1904, I believe, is the first year that they put a shovel in the ground and started working for you business owners out there. So Federated's corporate culture is grounded in equity, integrity, teamwork, and respect. And these 4 cornerstones create the foundation that supports all interactions and decision-making, not only for them, but for your business. So if you're looking for just better frontline protection, better peace of mind as a business owner, federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right. Day off from camp, and then the Vikings play their first preseason game tomorrow night. We're not going to do a late night vent line for that, but we are going to come back in the morning on Friday live at 10 o'clock on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, 10 o'clock Central Time. So, and then we'll have all sorts of stuff. Write that down, predictions today between now and then as well. Purple Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. All right, welcome into Stepping Up, presented by Federated Insurance, where we talk with next-generation business owners and business leaders about their process, about their philosophies, what challenges they face, and their vision for the future of business. And our guest on this episode is the Chief Operating Officer of the Minnesota Timberwolves, a man who has seen a lot of basketball and a lot of sports business the last 20 or 25 years, Ryan Tanke. Thank you for joining, Ryan.
Great to see you, Phil. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on. This is fun.
We're going to force Ryan Tanke to reflect a little bit here. So you started off, and this is a good lesson for whether you're taking over a business from a family member or whether you're just working in a company and you're eventually rising up from, in your case, you were an intern in the ticket sales department. And then throughout the years, you have now worked on the C level of things for the last, decade or so.
Yeah.
There have to be so many different paradigm shifts as you're going from the lower end of an organization or the younger part of your career to then being on the top side of it and running an organization or sitting in a small room with, a handful of people running an organization.
Yeah.
What are the biggest things, like the macro principles that you've learned as you've sort of made that journey?
It's a great question. I think there's learnings along the way, Phil. Even how I got an internship here, right? I moved to Minnesota. I went to school at St. Mary's in Winona, a small Division III school. I moved to Minneapolis after, and I just decided I was going to try to network into the sports industry, right? So I sent out a resume to every professional baseball, football, basketball, hockey team in the country, literally. And you quickly realize as you get 0 responses from that exercise that you actually have to go out and network and build a network. The sheet of paper might look great, but it's not going to do anything for you. So I shared that today through the lens of it's no different if we're going to go and work on some large corporate sponsorship, or we're going to go and add some new business vertical. You've got to be willing to go out and make it happen. It's not going to just happen. So I think there's lessons like that.
Love it, man. Love to hear that, and appreciate your insights on business leadership. And yeah, Ryan, it was great catching up. Thanks for your time today, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Love doing it, and love to do it again sometime.
Ryan Tanke, the Chief Operating Officer of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx, here on Stepping Up, presented by Federated Insurance.